The rain-soaked streets of Neo-Earth's capital city shimmered under the neon lights, casting an almost dreamlike glow on everything they touched. Ethan Voss glided through the evening traffic on his hoverboard, the hum of the city fading into the background. He should have felt alive amidst the bustling hub of technological wonders, a city built on human ingenuity. But today, he felt disconnected, as if his heart and mind had drifted far away. His comm device buzzed, pulling him back to reality. A strange encrypted message flashed on his retinal display. Curious, he hesitated before tapping to open it. Ethan Voss, you have been identified as the sole heir of the estate of Orlan Zeth, formerly of the Upsilon star cluster. Please report to Lunar Station X-24 for further details. Ethan nearly lost his balance. Orlan Zeth, the mysterious alien genius he'd met years ago at a robotics convention. They had shared drinks and ideas, but they hadn't spoken in ages. Why would Orlan leave him anything? Intrigued, and admittedly a little skeptical, Ethan tapped his wrist console to book the earliest shuttle to Lunar Station X-24. By morning, Ethan was seated aboard a sleek interplanetary shuttle, its engines roaring as it breached Earth's atmosphere and headed toward the moon. He stared out at the vastness of space, questions swirling in his mind. Who was Orlan, really, and what kind of fortune could he have left behind? Upon arrival at the station, he was greeted by an AI assistant. "Welcome, Mr. Voss. Please follow me," it said in a flat, emotionless tone. The halls of the station were sterile and quiet, a stark contrast to the vibrant chaos of Neo-Earth below. Ethan felt his pulse quicken as the AI led him to a grand door that seemed out of place in the otherwise utilitarian setting. Inside, an alien figure sat behind a massive desk. Its translucent skin pulsed with light, and its long fingers tapped rhythmically on the desk. Ethan Voss, it greeted him, its voice smooth and melodic. "I am the executor. Orlan Zeth's final will was to bequeath his entire estate to you." Ethan's mouth went dry. "Why me? We weren't close. We only met once." The executor tilted its head slightly. "Mr. Zeth had many admirers, but he saw in you a kindred spirit. His estate includes several starships, vast holdings across the galaxy, and one other significant possession." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Possession." A door to the right slid open, and a figure stepped into the room. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. She was stunning, an alien woman with skin that shimmered like liquid starlight, her eyes deep pools of swirling galaxies. She moved with a grace that was almost otherworldly. "This is Lara," the executor continued. "She was Zeth's companion, and by the customs of her people, is now yours." Ethan's heart raced. "Wait, what? You can't just inherit a person." Lara smiled, a gentle, knowing smile that sent shivers down his spine. "I am not a possession, Ethan. My people have ancient traditions. I am here of my own free will, bound not by ownership, but by a bond forged in the spirit of unity." Ethan stepped back, feeling overwhelmed. This is insane. I don't even know what to say." Lara stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "You don't have to say anything. All you need to know is that together, we have a destiny to fulfill. Orlan saw something in you, a spark of potential, and I believe he was right." Ethan swallowed hard. His life had just taken a turn he could never have imagined. He was no longer just an ordinary human engineer. He was the heir to an intergalactic fortune and bound to an alien woman who was as mysterious as she was beautiful. "Where do we begin?" he asked, realizing that his life would never be the same. Lara's eyes gleamed with a mischievous light. "First, we have to leave this station. Your new life awaits, Ethan Voss. And trust me, it will be far more exciting than you could ever imagine." Now that Ethan had met Lara and learned about his inheritance, the real adventure was about to start. As they boarded his newly acquired starship, the magnitude of what lay ahead began to sink in. The executor's words echoed in his mind. Vast holdings across the galaxy. He was no longer just an earthbound engineer. He was part of something much larger. The starship's bridge was sleek and cutting-edge, a testament to Orlan Zeth's brilliance. Lara stood beside him, her presence calming yet charged with an energy that made his heart race. The ship's AI greeted them as they prepared to depart Lunar Station X-24. Destination, Mr. Voss. Ethan hesitated, looking at Lara. Where do we go first? Lara smiled. There's a world in the Zoran cluster where Orlan had hidden his most valuable project. He wanted you to have it. But there will be challenges. Others will come after you, Ethan. They will not be as welcoming as I am. The weight of her words settled on him, but Ethan felt a strange sense of excitement bubbling up. This was the adventure he had always dreamed of, but never thought possible. With a deep breath, he gave the order. Set course for the Zoran cluster. As the ship's engines roared to life, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. He had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. He was ready to face whatever the universe had in store for him. The stars blurred into streaks of light as the ship slipped into faster-than-light travel, a hum of power vibrating through the hull. Ethan stood on the bridge, staring out into the vast expanse of space. His heart thudded in his chest. He had seen the stars from Earth countless times, but now they felt closer, more real. Lara approached, her shimmering skin reflecting the soft glow of the control panels. "You've handled this well," she said, her voice calm yet full of admiration. Ethan smiled, though a hint of uncertainty crept into his expression. "I'm not sure if I've handled anything yet. This is all still sinking in." Lara nodded, her silver eyes softening. Orlan always said humans had a unique way of adapting. He believed in you, Ethan. That's why he chose you. The compliment hung in the air, and Ethan felt the weight of those words. Why had Orlan chosen him? He was just an engineer, nothing special, or so he thought. His gaze drifted back to the stars, lost in the thought of what awaited them at the Zoran cluster. After a while, the ship's eye chimed. ETA to Zoran cluster. 5 hours. Navigating through uncharted space may present navigational challenges. Ethan turned to Lara. Uncharted space. That sounds ominous. Lara smiled faintly. It's not as dangerous as it sounds, but it's not without risks. There are ancient anomalies in that region, remnants of civilizations long gone. Orlan explored these spaces to find things others deemed lost or too dangerous to pursue. Ethan raised an eyebrow. And he left something for me there. Something valuable. More than just valuable, Lara replied, her voice dropping to a near whisper. It's something that could change everything. Ethan didn't have time to respond before the ship jolted violently, alarms blaring across the bridge. He stumbled, grabbing the nearest console to steady himself. Warning, the AI intoned. We have entered a gravitational anomaly. Course correction required. Lara's eyes widened, her calm demeanor shifting to urgency. It's one of the anomalies I mentioned. We need to adjust the trajectory or we'll be pulled into a temporal rift. Great, Ethan muttered under his breath. AI, calculate a new trajectory to avoid the rift. The ship shuddered again as it tried to pull free from the anomaly's grasp. Ethan's hands flew over the controls, working with the AI to adjust their path. Lara stood beside him, offering guidance, her alien knowledge helping to stabilize the situation. For what felt like an eternity, the ship groaned and creaked under the pressure. The gravitational forces outside bent light in strange ways, making the stars appear distorted, as though they were being pulled into spirals. But finally, the ship broke free, the alarms silencing as they drifted back onto their original course. Ethan exhaled sharply, wiping sweat from his brow. That was close. Lara let out a breath, her shoulders relaxing. You handled that well, Ethan. Not many humans could have reacted that quickly. He shot her a tired grin. Maybe Orlan was right about me after all. The ship resumed its steady journey, and as the tension faded, Ethan felt the buzz of excitement return. They were on their way again, heading deeper into uncharted space, closer to whatever mystery Orlan had left behind. Hours passed, and finally, the ship slowed, coming out at faster than light travel. The Zoran cluster appeared on the view screen, an array of planets orbiting a dying star, their orbits erratic and unpredictable. It was a place few dared to venture, a place filled with secrets. Ethan stared at the scene before him, a mix of awe and apprehension. This is where Orlan hid his project. Lara nodded, her gaze fixed on one of the planets, the planet Zethera, the most remote of them all. Orlan believed it held the key to unlocking something far beyond what we know. The ship began its descent toward the planet's surface, the atmosphere thick and swirling with clouds of red and orange. As they broke through the atmosphere, Ethan could see the landscape below. Vast, barren plains dotted with strange metallic structures that rose from the ground like ancient monoliths. Lara's voice was soft, but full of reverence. "This is where it begins, Ethan. Whatever Orlan left for you is down there, but we won't be alone." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "There are others who have been watching, waiting for someone to come for Orlan's secret. They will try to stop us, but we must reach it before they do." Ethan's pulse quickened, the weight of the situation settling in. This wasn't just about inheriting a fortune or navigating a few dangerous anomalies. This was a race, and the stakes were higher than he could have ever imagined. As the ship landed on the planet's surface, Ethan steeled himself. He glanced at Lara, her calm, confident expression a source of strength. He was ready to face whatever lay ahead. With a deep breath, he stepped onto the alien soil, the adventure truly beginning. What awaited them in the depths of Zethera would change everything, not just for him, but for the galaxy itself. The air on Zethera was thick and humid, carrying an otherworldly scent that made Ethan's skin prickle. He adjusted his breathing mask as he stepped off the ship, the soft hum of the starship's engines dying down behind him. The landscape ahead was unlike anything he had seen before. Tall, metallic obelisks jutted from the cracked ground, casting long shadows over the barren plains. It was a desolate place, yet it buzzed with an underlying energy that he could almost feel in his bones. Lara joined him, her opalescent skin shimmering under the strange, dim light of the dying star overhead. "This way," she said, pointing toward a distant structure. It was larger than the others, more intricate, with strange symbols etched into its surface. "That's where Orlan's project is hidden." Ethan followed, his senses on high alert. Every sound, every shift in the wind, made him uneasy. "You said we wouldn't be alone," he reminded Lara. "Who else is out here?" Lara's expression darkened, her eyes scanning the horizon. Orlan's work was coveted by many. He kept it hidden for a reason. There are factions, collectors, and even governments who would stop at nothing to control what he discovered. Ethan's stomach tightened, and we're walking right into it. Lara glanced at him, her lips curving into a faint smile. "You're braver than you think, Ethan. Orlan wouldn't have trusted you with this if he thought you couldn't handle it." The weight of her words didn't fully comfort him, but there was no turning back now. They walked in silence for what felt like hours, the landscape growing more alien and oppressive with each step. The towering structures loomed closer, their surfaces gleaming under the dull light. As they approached the largest obelisk, Ethan noticed the intricate carvings running along its base, symbols that seemed to shift and move when he looked at them. Lara stopped in front of a massive, sealed door at the base of the structure. "This is it," she said softly. "Orlan hid his greatest project behind this door, but it's protected by an ancient mechanism, one that only someone with your unique talents can unlock." Ethan blinked. "My talents? I'm an engineer, Lara, not some ancient puzzle solver." Lara smiled knowingly. "Exactly. This mechanism is based on technology far beyond what most understand. But to you, it will be familiar. Orlan trusted that you would be able to decipher it." Taking a deep breath, Ethan stepped closer to the door. The carvings on its surface began to glow faintly, reacting to his presence. He hesitated for a moment, then placed his hand on the cool metal. Instantly, a series of holographic symbols flickered to life around him, floating in the air like puzzle pieces waiting to be aligned. Instinctively, his engineering mind took over. The symbols were intricate, but as he studied them, he realized they were mathematical in nature, geometrical patterns, formulas, and sequences. It was a code, one that only someone trained in advanced engineering and quantum physics could understand. Orlin had designed this lock specifically for him. As Ethan manipulated the symbols, aligning them in the correct sequence, the door began to hum. The carvings glowed brighter, and with a loud hiss, the massive door slid open, revealing a dark, cavernous chamber inside. Lara stepped forward, her expression one of awe. "You did it." Ethan couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. I guess Orlin knew what he was doing. The chamber beyond was vast, its walls lined with strange machinery that looked both ancient and futuristic at the same time. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on it rested a small glowing device. It was no larger than a human hand, but its energy pulsed through the room like a heartbeat. "That's it?" Ethan asked, staring at the device. "That's Orlin's big secret." Lara nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving the device. "It may not look like much, but this is the culmination of Orlin's life's work. It's a prototype of a technology that could reshape the galaxy, an energy source so powerful it could fuel entire planets, or destroy them." Ethan swallowed hard. "And now it belongs to me." Lara turned to him, her expression serious. "Yes, Orlin entrusted it to you because he believed you would use it wisely. But others will come for it. They will try to take it by force." As if on cue, the ground shook violently, and alarms blared from Ethan's wrist communicator. The ship's AI spoke urgently through his earpiece. "Unidentified ships have entered the planet's atmosphere. Hostile intent detected." Ethan's heart raced. "We've got company." Lara's eyes narrowed. "We need to move. Now." She grabbed the device from the pedestal, and the moment her fingers touched it, the entire structure trembled. The walls began to shift, the ancient machinery springing to life. Ethan sprinted toward the exit, Lara close behind him. Outside, the sky was filled with the ominous sight of descending ships, their engines roaring as they neared the ground. Ethan and Lara ran toward their own ship, the landscape quaking beneath their feet. "We're not going to make it," Ethan shouted over the noise. Lara's voice was steady despite the chaos. "We will. Just keep moving." They reached the ship just as the first of the hostile ships landed, sleek black vessels bristling with weapons. Ethan's hands flew over the controls as he powered up their ship, the engines roaring to life. The hostile ships opened fire, beams of energy scorching the ground around them. Ethan slammed the throttle forward, and their ship shot into the air, dodging the incoming fire. As they soared into the sky, Ethan glanced back at the planet below, the surface now dotted with the landing ships of their pursuers. "They're not going to stop, are they?" Ethan asked, his knuckles white as he gripped the controls. Lara shook her head, her expression grim. "No, but we have something they don't. We have Orlin's legacy." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as they broke through the atmosphere and into space, the hostile ships close behind. The chase had begun, and Ethan knew this was only the start of a much larger battle, one that would test everything he thought he knew about himself and the universe. The silence of space was quickly shattered as Ethan's starship raced away from Zethera, hostile ships in close pursuit. Alarms blared throughout the cockpit, and the control panel lit up with warnings. Ethan gritted his teeth, his hands flying over the controls as he tried to stay ahead of their attackers. "They're gaining on us," Ethan shouted, glancing over at Lara, who was strapped into the co-pilot's seat. Her face remained calm, though her eyes flickered with determination. "Keep moving," she ordered, her voice firm. "We need to lose them before we can use the hyperdrive. They'll track our jump if we try to leave now." Ethan pulled the ship into a sharp turn, the stars streaking by as they weaved through a dense asteroid field. The hostile ships followed, their engines roaring in pursuit, firing plasma bolts that narrowly missed their hull. The blast sent chunks of rock flying in every direction. "This isn't exactly how I pictured my first day as a galactic heir," Ethan muttered under his breath, his hands shaking slightly from the tension. Lara leaned closer, her gaze locked on the radar display. "Stay focused. You're doing fine. Orlan built this ship to be fast, but it's up to you to use your skills to outsmart them." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He banked the ship hard to the left, dodging another barrage of enemy fire. He needed a plan. The asteroid field was buying them some time, but they couldn't stay here forever. The hostile ships were relentless, and the odds of outrunning them indefinitely seemed slim. "What are we up against?" Ethan asked, his voice tense. "Who are these people?" Lara's expression darkened. "Mercenaries. They work for anyone who pays enough. And right now, they're after Orlan's creation. I warned you they wouldn't stop." Ethan glanced at the glowing device that Lara had carefully secured in a protective case beside her. "So that little thing is worth all this?" "It's worth more than you can imagine," Lara said quietly. "With the right knowledge, it could power entire star systems, or in the wrong hands, it could be used as a weapon of unimaginable destruction. That's why Orlan kept it hidden." The gravity of her words hit Ethan like a weight in his chest. He wasn't just an engineer on an adventure. He was now the keeper of something that could reshape the galaxy. The responsibility felt overwhelming. "I didn't ask for this," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "No one ever does," Lara replied gently. "But you're here now, and Orlan believed in you. That means you're stronger than you think." Before Ethan could respond, a loud explosion rocked the ship, sending alarms blaring. One of the hostile ships had clipped their rear thruster. The ship lurched forward, and warning lights flashed across the control panel. "We've lost the stabilizer," Ethan shouted, frantically trying to regain control. The ship wobbled, veering dangerously close to a large asteroid. "Hold it together," Lara yelled. "We're almost through the field. Once we're clear, we can make the jump." Ethan gritted his teeth and pulled back on the throttle, forcing the ship back into alignment. The hostile ships were still on their tail, but the asteroid field was thinning out. If they could just make it a little further. Suddenly, one of the mercenary ships launched a missile, its fiery trail streaking toward them. "Ethan, now," Lara shouted. Without thinking, Ethan pulled the ship into a dive, narrowly avoiding the missile as it slammed into an asteroid behind them, shattering it into pieces. The shockwave sent debris flying, and Ethan struggled to keep the ship steady. "We can't take much more of this," he said through gritted teeth. Lara's eyes flashed with resolve. "We don't have to. There's a nearby star system, uninhabited but full of unstable gas clouds. If we fly through, we can ignite one and create a diversion." Ethan hesitated. "That sounds like a dangerous plan." "It is," Lara admitted, "but it's our best shot." With no other options, Ethan nodded. "All right, let's do it." He punched in the coordinates and set a course for the nearby system. The hostile ships were still firing, but Ethan kept the ship steady as they blasted through space at top speed. The gas clouds loomed ahead, swirling with brilliant hues of blue and green. "Get ready," Lara warned, her fingers hovering over the controls. "We only get one chance at this." As they entered the gas cloud, visibility dropped to almost zero. Ethan could feel the tension rising, the ship trembling as it passed through the unstable gases. "Now," Lara shouted. Ethan hit the ignition trigger, and a burst of energy shot out from the ship's engines, igniting the gas cloud behind them. In an instant, the entire cloud erupted into a massive explosion, engulfing the pursuing ships in a fiery inferno. The ship lurched forward from the shockwave, but they were clear. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "They're gone," Lara said, relief evident in her voice. Ethan glanced at the sensors, confirming that the hostile ships had been destroyed in the explosion. They had escaped, at least for now. "Nice work," Lara said, giving him a small smile. Ethan managed a shaky grin. "I can't believe that actually worked." Lara leaned back in her seat, her expression softening. "Orlan chose well. You're proving to be more capable than you give yourself credit for." Ethan glanced at the stars ahead, the vastness of space stretching out before them. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, he felt a sense of confidence growing within him. "What now?" he asked. Lara's gaze turned serious. "Now we head to the next location, one of Orlan's secret safe houses, but we can't let our guard down. More will come, and they'll be better prepared." Ethan nodded, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders once again. "I'm ready." As the ship soared into the stars, leaving the chaos of the gas cloud behind, Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but with Lara by his side and Orlan's legacy in his hands, he was determined to see this mission through, no matter the cost. As the ship streaked through the quiet expanse of space, the adrenaline from the chase began to wear off. Ethan slumped back in his seat, exhausted but focused. Lara's calm composure was a stark contrast to his frayed nerves. "Orlan's safe house," Ethan muttered, breaking the silence. "What do we expect to find there?" Lara's eyes flickered with a glint of intrigue. Orlan kept many of his most important discoveries hidden from the world, even from the galactic corporations and governments. His safe house should hold the final piece to his work, a blueprint, a solution for harnessing the device's true potential. But it also holds secrets about his life. And possibly about you. Ethan frowned. "Me? What does any of this have to do with me? I didn't even know the guy." Lara glanced at him, her gaze softening. "Orlan didn't just pick you at random, Ethan. You were important to him in ways you can't yet understand." Before Ethan could ask more, the ship's AI interrupted with a soft ping. Approaching destination, Orlan Zeth's safe house Z12. The starship coasted toward a small barren moon orbiting a red dwarf star. The landscape was bleak, with jagged mountains and vast, empty plains. A lone structure, unassuming and small, sat nestled between the rocks. As they landed, a strange sense of foreboding crept over Ethan. He and Lara exited the ship, the moon's thin atmosphere requiring them to wear oxygen masks. The wind howled faintly as they approached the entrance of the safe house. Lara placed her hand on a scanner, and the heavy metal door creaked open. Inside, the air was cold, and the dim light cast eerie shadows on the walls. Shelves lined with ancient, alien-looking devices cluttered the room, but the focal point was a central console that dominated the far end of the chamber. "This is it," Lara said quietly, moving toward the console. "Orlan's final message." She activated the device, and a hologram flickered to life. It was Orlan Zeth, older than the holograms Ethan had seen before. His face bore the weight of years spent in secrecy, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and desperation. "Ethan," the hologram began, startling him. "If you're seeing this, it means the legacy I've left behind is now in your hands." Ethan's heart raced as Orlan's hologram continued, his voice echoing through the room. "You're more than just an heir, Ethan. You're my son." Ethan staggered back, the words hitting him like a freight train. His mind raced, struggling to process the revelation. What did he just say? He stammered, looking at Lara for answers. Lara's face softened with empathy. "It's true, Ethan. Orlan was your biological father. He kept it from you to protect you. He never wanted you to be dragged into the dangerous world he was part of. But when he realized the importance of his work, he knew you were the only one he could trust." Ethan's head spun as years of unanswered questions came flooding back. His childhood, his mother's reluctance to talk about his father, the mystery that had always surrounded him. It all started to make sense, but the weight of it was crushing. "I had him understand," Ethan muttered. "Why me? I'm just an engineer. How am I supposed to live up to this?" Orlan's hologram continued, as if sensing Ethan's turmoil. I've prepared you for this, even if you didn't realize it. Your skills, your curiosity, your resilience, those are qualities I've seen in you from the beginning. You have the power to change the fate of the galaxy, Ethan. But only if you believe in yourself. The hologram flickered, and Orlan's final words echoed in the cold, empty chamber. Take the blueprint. Use it wisely. Protect it at all costs, for it will either be the galaxy's salvation or its destruction. The choice is yours, my son. The hologram faded, and the room fell silent. Ethan stood frozen, his mind reeling. He was Orlan Zeth's son. The weight of his inheritance now felt heavier than ever. Lara approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to do this alone, Ethan. I'm here, and we'll figure it out together. Ethan looked into her eyes, finding strength in her steady gaze. I don't know if I'm ready for this, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. You are, Lara said softly. Orlan believed in you, and so do I. Ethan nodded, the pieces of his life slowly falling into place. The legacy left behind by Orlan was now his to protect, and though the path ahead was uncertain, he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going to run from it. With the blueprint secured, Ethan and Lara left the safe house, but the peace was short-lived. As they boarded the ship, a warning flashed across the console. A fleet of ships was closing in, mercenaries, more ruthless, and better equipped than before. Looks like word's out, Lara muttered, her voice tight. They'd brought reinforcements. Ethan's fingers danced across the controls, the ship's engines roaring to life. We're not running this time, he said, a fierce determination in his voice. If we don't stop them here, they'll never stop coming. The starship shot into the sky, the enemy fleet closing in fast. Plasma fire streaked across the void as Ethan maneuvered through the barrage of incoming attacks. His mind was racing, not just with the battle but with the realization that his father's legacy and the galaxy's future was on the line. Lara, how do we use the blueprint? Ethan shouted, dodging another blast. It's a power source, Lara replied. But it's more than that. It has the potential to disrupt energy fields, including shields and weapons. If we can activate it, we might be able to disable their fleet. How long? Ethan asked, his eyes scanning the tactical display. Minutes, Lara said, already working at the console. We don't have minutes, Ethan muttered. The mercenary ships closed in, their weapons charging for a final assault. Ethan's hands shook, his mind searching for a way out. And then it hit him. Something Orlan had said in his hologram. The choice is yours, my son. Ethan's heart pounded as the realization dawned on him. We can't wait for the perfect moment, Lara. We're making our stand now. With a deep breath, Ethan activated the ship's power core, integrating the blueprint's technology into the ship's systems. The engines hummed with a new intensity, and the ship glowed with an ethereal light. Do it now, Ethan shouted.